dealing with the difference between reason, rationality on the one hand, and philosophy on the other hand. And sometimes people confuse the two, and they shouldn't be confused. We deal with a posuk in Bamidbar in Parshas Chukas. Unetatem otai el Elazar HaKohen. We're talking about the para aduma. So this is the red heifer, and you shall give it over to Elazar HaKohen. V'hotzi otai al mechutz lamachaneh v'shachat otai lefanav, and you shall take it to outside the camp, and meaning outside the Azara, outside the Beit Hamikdash area. V'shachat otai lefanav, and you shall shech the paraduma in the presence of Elazar HaKohen. That's the posuk, and the word otah is emphasized in that posuk. And the Gemara brings a mishnah from Masechet Para. Lo hayta para rotzah latzet. If they're trying to get the paraduma out of the Beit Hamikdash area to go for its shchita, and it doesn't want to go, it's stubborn. Ein motzi mimash chora. You can't get another cow, and sometimes one cow helps the other cow to go out, and the other one's a black cow or some other color, shelo yomru shchora shechatu, so that when the ashes come back at the end of it, people won't say, maybe that was the black cow that they did. And you don't send out another para aduma, shelo yomru shtayim shechatu, so people won't say they slaughtered two of them. You're not allowed to slaughter two of them at once. Rabbi Omer lo min Hashem huzeh. That's Rabbi says that's not the reason. Ela mishum shene'amar otah levada. It says the word otah, meaning it has to go out. You have to take it out of the Azara on its own as a single cow. Tanakama haktiv otah. So what do the Chachamim do with the fact that it says one? Man Tanakama. Who's the Tanakama? Rabbi Shimon. That's Rabbi Shimon. The Darish Taima Dikra. Who reasons with psukim when there's a law in the Torah. He works with the reason of the law as well. The origin of that is in the Gemara in Bava Metzia, where we're told that you can't take the clothes of a widow as security for a loan. And the Gemara, Mishnah says there, Almona ben shi aniyah ben shi ashira. Doesn't matter if this Almona, if this widow is wealthy or poor. Ein memashkinin ota. You can't take this as security. Shneimar lo tachbol beged almana. Tan Rabbanan. The Gemara says we learned in a brayso. Almana ben shi aniyah ben shi ashira ein memashkinin ota. It doesn't matter whether she's wealthy or not. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. That's only Rabbi Yehuda who says it doesn't matter if she's wealthy. Rabbi Shimon Omer Ashira memashkinanota and Yain memashkinota. This is a law specifically for a poor widow, not for a wealthy widow. Shata chayav lachzila. Why is that? The Gemara goes on to say that Rabbi Shimon works out that the machloket Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon is whether darish tama dikra, whether you can reason with the reasons of a halacha. So Rabbi Shimon says, in the case of the almana, we're afraid that if she's a poor woman, you'll have to bring back, if you take daytime clothes, you've got to bring them back in the morning, and if you take nighttime clothes, you've got to bring them back in the night, so you're backwards and forwards to her house every night and every morning, and the neighbors will gossip. It's not good for her reputation. So that's how sensitive the Torah is. It says Rabbi Shimon, but that's only with a poor one, where you have to take it back every night or every day. But if she's a wealthy woman who's got a wardrobe full of clothes, you don't have to take them back every night and every day. So it doesn't apply there. And it comes from the brayso, where we're told that the king's not allowed to have too many women. Rabbi Yehuda Meir Marbe, who vivad shelo yeh mesirot libo. It says that he shouldn't have too many wives so that they don't distract him off the path of Torah. Says Rabbi Yehuda, and therefore if he knows that he won't be distracted, then it's fine. The problem is distracting himself from the Torah. The problem is not the number of wives. Rabbi Shimon Omer afilu achat v'misrat libo arei lo yisayena. And Rabbi Shimon says the opposite. So here we've got them reversed. Rabbi Shimon says no matter whether they'll distract him or not, they're not allowed to do it. And the Gemara goes backwards and forwards. It's a very interesting and important piece of Gemara. And then the Gemara comes to the conclusion that in general situations, Rabbi Yehuda does not consider the reasons for a mitzvah. He just works with the mitzvah as it states. And Rabbi Shimon does concern himself with reasons of the mitzvah. What's important to understand is this is not suggesting that mitzvahs don't have reasons. Rabbi Yehuda, and we pass on like Rabbi Yehuda, that you don't use the reasons for psukim. This is not because halachot in the Torah don't have reasons. And this isn't because human beings aren't capable of understanding some of those reasons. The issue is different, and the Ritva states it here, where Rabbi Shimon the Darish Tama Dikra Perish the Avid Dina Lefum Tama Dikra Bilchud. A very important Ritva, because the Ritva defines what do we mean by whether darshinan Tama Dikra or we don't darshinan Tama Dikra. Do we use the reasons, the philosophic reasons for halacha, or don't we? Says the Ritvo, it means that you paskin a halacha, you use it in halachic reasoning. That's the question. The question is not whether you can think philosophically about a mitzvah. If you can find some meaning, we do that every morning. We do that. Take a piece of Gemara. Sometimes the Gemara is agadativ, sometimes the Gemara is pure halacha, and we extract a principle. That's the matmon. We extract a principle of life from that. Is that dashin and taima dikra? Says the Ritvo. No. If we would take our reason and now start being mechadesh halachot, we'll start deducing and extrapolating new halachot based on the reason. That we don't do. Dilu Rabbanan afagav the darish time dikra b'chol duchla mikol makom koyechet dechlat avrachman shum din muchlat lo mevatli minei midi mishum time dikra. Even the Rabbanan, you'll often see the Rabbanan using time dikra. They'll speak about the reason for a mitzvah. The Torah itself often gives us the reasons for mitzvahs. But what you won't find with the Rabbanan is that they use the philosophic reason in order to reason within the halacha, and this really defines the difference between Torah orthodoxy and Reformation, wherever you draw that boundary. The one thing we'll always do if we're working with halacha, we work with the principles of halachic reasoning. We don't work with philosophy. That doesn't mean you can't philosophize. You can philosophize as much as you want in a drosha. But when you're working with psak halacha, then you work with the principles of halachic psak. Otherwise, you can go anywhere. It becomes a little crazy. The Rabbanan hold that the Torah doesn't make different rules because of different philosophies and different ideas. The principles are principles. And so we see clearly from here that there are two disciplines. There's a discipline of philosophy where you can take the Torah and you can understand, get personal meaning from understanding that, but not to use that meaning in the way you reason halachically. Reasoning halachically has to be based on the principles of lomdus, of the way we're taught to learn the Torah and to learn Gemara, and that's why that discipline is so very, very important, and why in the yeshivot today that's where the focus is, because that's where one can most easily make the mistakes. The Rambam says in Hilchos Me'ilah, at the end of Hilchos Me'ilah, you should consider the mishpatim, and you should try and understand them. And try to understand their reasoning to the maximum of your intellectual capability. Try and work it out. But when you can't find reason, it shouldn't be any less severe in your mind. And you don't question what Hashem has told us. And that's where the Torah is so different from any other study. Any other study, if you can't make sense of it, then you leave it. It doesn't make sense. With the Torah, that's never the case. You have to try and make sense of it, and if you can't make sense of it, tough. Doesn't matter. It makes no difference. And then he goes on to prove it, and he says at the end, a very classical and important Rambam, because it also contradicts what he says in the Moreh Nevuchim, which is a different conversation. Korbanot kulan michlala chukim hem, and all the korbanot, we're learning about that in Masechta YOMA, are all part of chukim. Amru Chachamim shishbishvil avodat korbanot ha'olam omed. The Chachamim say the world exists because of the avodah of the korbanos. It's an energy. It brings an energy into the world that sustains the world and keeps it going. And today we don't have korbanot, but we have the learning of korbanot, and that also brings the energy into the world. By keeping chukim and mishpatim equally carefully, whether it's a mishpat where you understand the reasoning or it's a chok where you don't, keeping them equally seriously, that's where you get to Chayei Olam Haba. And the Torah has been very specific to warn us about the importance of chukim. Your life force is dependent on the way that you live the chukim. And there's a beautiful Truvas HaRashbo and Siman Tzadi Dalet, where he talks about even those places where the Torah gives us the reason. Then we've got to know that hatamim ahem are not tachlit hakavana bahem. Enan tachlit. This is not the final reason. If you've got some reason that the Torah gives you, that's not the final reason. Ela hatam hu emet achu kinekudam mitzoelet umichavnoteha. The reason that we're given is only one. It's true, but it's only one facet of what the mitzvah really means. And the actual understanding of the mitzvah is far beyond human capability. So we get involved as far as we can, but we need to know there's a universe out there that we can't even get to. It's a little bit exactly like you study astronomy, you study cosmology. You go as far as you can go, but you know there's a universe out there that you can't get to, that we don't know. That's how it is with the Torah. And I've spoken recently about the importance of restoring the magic into Torah, that it's become so clinical, it's become so analytical. And of course part of it is, the longest part is clinical and analytical, but restore the magic. And the magic is in understanding the meaning and in knowing that the meaning is far beyond us. It's in immersing yourself into something which is bigger than human intellect. Immersing yourself in something which, no matter how long your entire life, 1 million people can spend their entire lives to try and analyze and understand the Torah, and they won't touch the surface. That's the magic of it. That's what it is to immerse yourself into something that is much bigger than humanity. And if we understood everything with clear philosophic reasons, and we only reasoned within that, Torah would be very limited. It would be limited to our own intellectual capacity. And it's not. This is the intellect of the Ribbono Shel Olam. This has no limit whatsoever to its intellectual capacity. We can only journey. We can go with it. We can experience it. We can explore. We can adventure. But we'll never get to the end of it and to understand it. And knowing that is part of the magic of Torah, that we're on a journey that has no end. We're on a journey that every single day of our journey we see the most magnificent sights and we have the most magnificent experiences, and we keep on going forward and forward. But when do we get to the end? It's not possible for the human being to get to the end of one mitzvah, never mind of Kol HaTorah Kula.